And I definitely would have jumped into social media a little bit earlier.
I had like 3 or 4 people reach out to me even months after posting that video.
What am I doing day in and day out that I can just bring to, like, I can bring a camera to and just, get a quick glimpse of?
Welcome to the Closing Table Podcast, real accounts from real estate professionals brought to you by WindowStill. I'm your host, Kat Schooler, and today we're doing something a little different. I've interviewed a lot of real estate agents this year, and so I've gone through those interviews to bring you the top social media tips for real estate agents by real estate agents. So if you're not even sure where to start on your social media journey, this is the right place for you. Today, these agents will cover what to even post on social media, what should be in your social media name and bio to make you more searchable, and how to make content that you enjoy that will also resonate with your audience. Let's jump right in. You also have talked about finding leads off of TikTok without having a bajillion followers. You can still mine leads from TikTok. How have you found success with that?
It's not like a secure thing as the social media leads. And that's what I realized very early on was like the people that are getting all their business off of social media, they've spent a long time building that. It's really hard to do for a new agent. And I'm very realistic when it comes to that. And I will never claim that I get 100% of my business off of social media. But TikTok is cool because it's so like the algorithm is so good that if you're posting local content and you're saying local words, it's going to get pushed to the local people if you're putting your location in there. And so I had this video, this was like, it's such a terrible video too. I'm so embarrassed of it. Like this is really early on. I'm like talking about how houses in this one suburb in Chicago, most of them don't have basements. And that it was like surprising to me to learn that. And I had like 3 or 4 people reach out to me even months after posting that video. They messaged me either on Instagram or they would text me because TikTok DMs are kind of weird. You have to like both follow each other to be able to DM on there. So people would reach out to me and were like, hey, I'm looking for a house in Rolling Meadows, which was the suburb I was talking about in that video. I saw your TikTok video. Would you be able to help me or something along those lines? And this happened a couple of times. I was like, what about that video was like hitting so many people, hitting the right people. And it was just because I was talking about something local and it was hitting those people because people that are in other states, they don't care. So then the algorithm can sense that and it doesn't feed it to non-local people, which is why I like doing like the neighborhood spotlight videos and like the home tours and being specific about location, especially on TikTok. Instagram, you can do a little bit more broad stuff because it's not the same as TikTok, but that's how I've kind of gotten a few pretty good leads off of TikTok.
I think that's a great nugget of advice, just really kind of like narrowing the focus of it so the algorithm can do all the work for you for months.
Yeah, literally. It was so weird. It was like a lot of months later. And I was like, oh, I hate that people are still seeing that video of me too. I had terrible lighting. It was terrible audio. I was still in that practice makes perfect part of learning how to be on video and stuff because I had to show up a lot on video to finally be comfortable and be good at it.
Totally. Well, and it's funny because I've been talking about this with other people that I think TikTok especially has desensitized us to kind of like we want more off the cuff video. Like TikTok really has kind of become that, whereas like Instagram can still be very curated, that's a good word for it. TikTok is a lot less curated, and I think we've been a lot more comfortable with that overall. And I actually think sometimes it works better. It just depends on your audience,
Exactly. Like, you know who Alex Earl is?
No, I don't.
Okay, so she's like my age. She's this big influencer on TikTok, and she's just like so authentically herself. She just graduated University of Miami. Her followers love her because she's just so authentically 23 years old, partying, living her life and telling the stories of it. And I think that's really cool too. And honestly, I kind of wish Instagram were more like that because then it would be a lot less curated. But that's the thing I do like about TikTok is you make friends on there, just people that watch your stuff and comment on it. I have people that will go to bat for me in my comments and I don't have that many followers. It's not like I'm TikTok famous. It's just that you get to know people and they feel like they know you more, like, which is the most important part.
Right. And I think your videos are really great. You're often commenting on like news, in the real estate business, especially I would love I love when people mess up, your video about the HGTV star, the Flipster star who's in trouble for embezzlement. I was like, ooh, tell me the tea. Where do you get all of your ideas from, or how do you come up with your ideas for social media content?
Yeah, so I do a green screen for a BAM article every week, and that's the thing that I love about BAM is it's like nobody else is doing this agent education that's also entertaining, that's no fluff, that you actually want to read or listen to like BAM is. And so that article they wrote like what other news platforms are writing articles like that, and that's just something that's interesting for the general public, whether they're a realtor or not, to like listen to, because who doesn't want to hear about somebody going to jail for committing real estate fraud? Like, it's crazy, but it's something that is interesting to people, and the like title is kind of clickbaity, and that's why I like doing the BAM articles, because I'm picking something that's entertaining but also educational, and someone would want to keep watching the video.
So I feel like in the fall, I got a couple messages from other people just looking to connect from out of town or out of state. And I'm like, hey, you guys are on to something. So, and I've sent referrals out. I've gotten referrals in. Actually, I think in February, I got a referral from a Stevens Point agent. And I was like, oh, how did you hear about me? And she's like, well, I just looked up an Appleton realtor on Instagram. And then I realized that, wow, this is actually pretty real. And I always felt like social media is it's a little portfolio of your life. You can go see how people interact with other people and how they talk on video. You can hear their voice, see how they, their gestures and just how they might be in person. So I feel like social media has been a great way for me to find similar people. And when I'm referring friends and family out, I would want to find somebody similar to me. So I usually try to pick like 2 agents a week to message and connect with. And it depends. Sometimes I'll just look up like Florida realtor in the search bar, and I'll just keep scrolling through until I find somebody's reel or photo that I really connect with. And then I stalk their profile a little bit. And then I message them and connect with them. And then I do have like a Google Doc where I keep all my referral partners and all of their information. So I'm slowly working at getting referral partners in every single state and every area of Wisconsin, so that when somebody comes to me and they're like, I'm looking to move to Ohio, I'm not like, oh, who do I know in Ohio? Like, I can just check that sheet and then I have them there. And then I can also hopefully go the reverse as well, where people are thinking of me, because I have a lot of people actually in like the Milwaukee area who don't know anyone in Appleton. And Appleton, for perspective, if no one knows where it is, or if anybody doesn't know where it is, it's 30 minutes south from Green Bay, and it's an hour and a half north from Milwaukee. So we're kind of in the middle, but we're closer to Green Bay. And I feel like everyone's heard of Green Bay and Milwaukee from different states, but then they say Appleton, and you're like, what is that? And we refer to this entire area as the Fox Cities or the Fox Valley. And it's funny because everyone from out of town or out of state has no idea what that is. So it's only the people around here who are saying Fox Cities. So that's why I put Appleton Realtor in my bio, so that it's searchable. And it is the whole Fox Cities, but nobody is looking for Fox Cities Realtor right now.
Right. That's super smart. And I think the Fox City sounds cool. So I feel like everybody should adopt it.
Yeah, they should.
I think, and I think that's like a really valuable tidbit of another way you can build out your business. No cost, right? It doesn't cost you anything but your time to go find people on Instagram and talk to them.
If I was starting over, I would definitely have joined a team immediately instead of wasting that first year just kind of floating along with no idea what I was doing. And I definitely would have jumped into social media a little bit earlier. I was probably 6 or 7 months into real estate before I really started posting videos from a real estate based social media account. And honestly, that's where 90% of my clients have come from. So it's definitely something that I would have invested in from the get go.
I think that's great advice. And now you do some, correct me if I'm wrong, you do some social media strategy for your team as well, yes?
Yes, my position is a little unique. I don't do as much transaction heavy business because, in addition to being a real estate broker, I am also my team's listing manager and social media manager. So I do manage our social media and the social media for a luxury community that we have.
Ooh, cool. Yes. Is that the one you did this really fun video about what houses the Disney princesses would live in? Is that your luxury neighborhood?
Yes,
Oh
it's the
my
luxury
gosh.
community.
Everybody should go to Alicia's TikTok and guess which princesses live in which houses because that was really fun for me. And I was like right sometimes, but then I was like also like wrong, but then like, oh yes, I see why this would be Snow White and not Belle. Duh.
There's no right or wrong answer with that. It's whichever one resonates with you. Because I did also post that on Instagram stories just to kind of like poll people and see what they came up with. And I got all kinds of different answers that were very different than what I initially thought. But it was like, oh yeah, I can totally see that.
I think that's fun. That's a really cool way to interact with people. Okay, since this is you are so strong in social media, do you have like a couple of like tips you would share with real estate agents who are maybe struggling or want to do more?
Oh, absolutely. Social media is a really, really great way to connect with your audience. The way I always tell people when we're talking about how to post on social media and what to post on social media and why it's important is that people want to do business with people that they like. So you have to give them a reason to like you. So you can go on social media and you can post what we affectionately call house porn, which is just you showing all of these pretty houses. But there's nothing for people to really connect to and make them think, yep, that's the real estate agent that I want to work with. So I definitely encourage putting your face on camera, talking to your audience, giving them a little bit of your personality. Kind of like, I share a little bit of that Disney side of me through that because that is something that I really enjoy. And don't even just share real estate focused things. Also share things in your community, places that you like to go eat and get coffee, or even, local outdoor activities. Like I do videos where I take my dog Lola on a hike to one of our local greenways or our parks just to share things about the community that people can resonate with and they can be like, oh yeah, I like to do that too. You have to give people a reason to actually connect with you through social media because that's the whole purpose of having these apps is to build an audience and build a community and really communicate with people.
I think that's said perfectly because I think people probably just go like, "Ah, I should post more." But like let's like run it back to like Facebook, right? We're going old school. Right? When you post your big life moments on Facebook, like if that's the minimum you do and say you share wedding pictures or like I don't know, family holiday pictures and you're like 76-year-old Aunt Linda, posts in the comments. This is not my story, but posts in the comments like, oh, like, love you so much. Beautiful smile. You're like, oh, yeah, Aunt Linda pays attention. And it's like the same thing. There are people out there that are paying attention. They want to know what you're doing, not just like what your business is. And so I think that's where you get so much value out of showing a video of you taking your dog hiking. I'm like, oh, she is the millennial agent because she has a dog and she goes hiking. Um, all millennials either like have a dog or wish they had a dog, except for me. I like to see other people's dogs.
Yeah, there are kids at this point for most
Yeah.
of us. I think really from like a technical perspective, when I hear people that are hesitant to start posting on social media, it's a lot of like, well, I don't know what I would say, or I'm not good on camera. So what I always like to tell people is take your time. You're editing a video, you're not absolutely live. So you can go back and you can edit it out and be like, okay, you know what? I probably shouldn't have said that. I'm going to delete this part. You can re record things. It's completely up to you. It is a lot easier when you're doing like long form talking videos. I like to tell people do short clips. Think of one sentence or two sentences that you want to say, think them out in your head, and then say them. And then do it again. And then do it again. And then you've got a 2 minute video of you talking about something and you sound super confident and like you know exactly what you're talking about.
Totally. Yeah. Because we're so used to everything being clipped together anyway. I had said this recently, like, I know stories are a little bit different, right? Because stories, it's like 30 seconds long and it's continuous. But on a reel or a TikTok, we're used to seeing like cut, 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 like one sentence at a time, like you said. So nobody's going to think anything of it.
No, and they tend to, for whatever reason, when you're doing those shorter clips, it holds people's attention easier because we are a society of very short attention spans.
And then that's the other thing. I think with short attention spans, it also doesn't have to be long. Like shorter is probably better in a lot of cases.
Yeah, there are definitely some subjects that I feel like doing the longer videos and kind of talking it through and explaining it does well. And then there's other videos that it just needs to be a 10-second video with text on a screen for people to read because then they're just going to scroll on about their day.
Yeah. Do you like those posts? Sometimes I go back and forth on whether I like those.
It depends. From a creator standpoint, when I'm making them, I do like that sometimes I don't have time or feel like I want to put on enough makeup to feel like I look camera presentable to make a long video. So I can just pull B-roll footage from something in the past and add some educational text that's going to give some value to whoever's watching it. And then I can go on about my day. So it's definitely a lazy way to post sometimes, but it can be effective.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like as when I post stuff, doing that, I'm like, "Ugh, I didn't have to put my face on a camera today. Yes. But sometimes as the scroller, when I come across stuff like that, I'm like, I have to read.
Yeah. It has to be phrased correctly, I think. There are some that, you know, when it's too much text on the screen at one time, I'm just like, oh, I'm not going to read all that. I'm just going to keep scrolling. But I think the people that do it really, really well manage to time the text out and they make sure they use that really great hook at first that you're like, oh, I'm going to stop scrolling for a second and see what this is about. So it's a lazy way to post, but it's not necessarily an easy way to effectively post. There's people that are great at it, and then there's people that aren't.
For sure. Yeah, that's well said. For your social media posting, do you try to post every day? Is it a reel and a story? What are your goals for posting?
I will say that my goals and my reality don't always match up. Um, this is real estate. Our days are chaotic at best. Um, Typically, I try to post at least one video on TikTok every day, Monday through Friday. I usually avoid posting on the weekends. One, because there is less of an audience that's sitting down scrolling typically. And two, because on the weekends, there is no telling whether or not I'm going to have time to sit down, since if I'm showing houses, I'm going to be driving around all day. Or it might be the one miraculous day that I have to do absolutely nothing and I'm not going to want to get up and put makeup on and record some videos. Um, so I shoot for Monday through Friday to post on TikTok. I try to get better about stories, but I'm not always great about remembering that I need to post something on stories for TikTok. For Instagram, I try to post roughly 3 times a week on there just because with the algorithm changes as of now, it is constantly changing. It doesn't seem to help to post constantly every single day as much as it does on TikTok. And then I share a lot of things on the stories on Instagram more so, especially with our neighborhoods and with our real estate team, and then some of the local accounts. Anything that I think might be useful for the people that follow me there.
That's great. I think it's so nice for you to say, like, I have goals, and then there's what actually happens. Because when you hear someone be like, well, you have to do it every day, you're like, well, do you do it every day? And they're like, yes. You're like, okay. Um, it's like, no, I strive to do it every day. Are you planning things out in advance? Do you batch content? Is it just off the cuff? How do you organize it?
All of the above.
Okay, yeah, totally.
There are some things that I know that I want to plan ahead for. If I'm going to be touring a home, if I'm going to be going out and showing homes to a client, and that's a really good opportunity to grab some content, actually showing what a real estate agent does. And then there are times that, a lot of my videos where I'm just sitting in my car talking to my phone, it'll be because something happened that day that prompted this conversation that I think other people might find useful, or when there's things that come up in the news, or when I get a comment from somebody that I'm like, oh, that's a really good subject to talk about. So a lot of those tend to be more off the cuff, and not super planned out. And then a lot of things that I try to plan out don't always go the way I plan them out. And sometimes I try to plan things out for the future, and then by the time I get around to it, it's just not topical anymore. So it's not really worth doing. Um, so it's a little bit of everything. You definitely have to be flexible when it comes to posting on social media, especially when it comes to TikTok, because it is so organic. And I feel like a lot of the content that does so well doesn't have to be that really aesthetic curated look. That's for Instagram. For TikTok, you can be a little unhinged, you can be a little less formal, and you can be casual and really let your personality out more.
Totally. And do you recommend, because you do hear people say like, oh, they're completely different platforms. You shouldn't cross post. But how do you feel about for someone starting out just cross posting everything everywhere?
I say cross post. There's going to be different audiences for both platforms, and there are some things that I cross post and some things I don't. Instagram, I do see as a much more aesthetic and curated world. So that's where I'm posting my pretty little house tours. That's where I'm posting more like aesthetic looking videos of myself walking around a house and things like that. Whereas on TikTok, I am posting more videos of me just talking to the camera and having a conversation with my followers and my audience and providing them value that way. But there's sometimes that both of those can cross over, and you can have a piece of content that fits both platforms. And if it does, absolutely cross post. You're going to find different audiences on both platforms. And so if you completely refuse to cross post and you just don't think it has any value to it, you could be missing out on a whole bunch of people being able to see your content.
I love that answer, because I think, people get really nitty gritty about anything they're passionate about. And I have so much respect for that. But I also think some people maybe just like creating a lot of work, you know? And I'm all about working smarter, not harder. So yes, something might pop off on TikTok that flops on Instagram, but you didn't know until you put it in both places.
You don't know if you don't try.
And you are the self-proclaimed home and restaurant matchmaker. Do we want to start there?
Yeah. So that title kind of just came out of nowhere, because I don't really it wasn't something I was I have to become this specific person. It was more so I go to restaurants on a regular basis, and it started to become a thing where people were always like, Yaz knows where we need to go eat. She knows where we need to go. So it was always hey Yaz, what can you recommend in this city? What can you recommend in this city? So I just got used to giving out recommendations. on like new restaurants and just kind of like new places to hit in different areas. At the time I was living in Detroit, so I was like very, very big on just the food scene that was happening down there and the, like kind of the revival, I guess. So I was like, any new place that was opening, I was like, I have to be there day one. So it eventually turned into a thing where I just kind of like made it my brand. I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna start taking videos of this, because I've always believed like if you want to do anything marketing and content related, it really should be like your day in and day out. It should be what you do every single day, so you're not like grasping to make something else out of yourself and like burning out, because that's essentially like what can happen. So I was like, well, I mean, I work in real estate, I hang out with Cookie Monster and, you know, my family, and then like I'm eating. So like, why not just try to do my best to get all of the content I can from just all the stuff I'm doing already. And it was really awkward going into like my first restaurant and taking a video, because I didn't want to be like one of those girls, you know, but that's kind of who I am now. It's always, you know, what's the saying? It's your food eats, or no, Instagram eats or something before you eat. I don't know what the saying is, but there's like some sort of saying there. So it's always like, yeah, Instagram first, we get all the pictures, get all the videos, and then we put them up. And yeah, it's done. I've definitely seen like so much more momentum now. There's so much consistency with it too. I think I have like at least a restaurant or 2 or 3 that I post every week. So I definitely have gained, you know, some sort of a following from it, and I have a lot of conversations about it. And a lot of those conversations usually end up turning into real estate conversations. And people follow me for the walkthroughs that I do, because I do walkthroughs through showings. And then I also do like walkthroughs of listings. And then, yeah, I do the food. So everybody's kind of like, yeah, what's new, what's out here? And just kind of became my thing. So self-proclaimed, it's here.
Yeah. And you're following through. And I'm sure I've probably seen some of your videos. My mother-in-law and I, like, we send them back and forth all the time of like places to try in Detroit, and people love them. And yeah, like you said, it's a great way to drive people to you and then kind of open up a more business conversation as it arises.
Yeah, definitely. And that's essentially like what it is, because people will follow me for some of the like some of the food content, but then those are people that I'm usually reaching out to anyway and having conversations with, because, you know, if someone's following me or if someone's sharing some of my posts, like I'm always making sure to do some sort of a follow-up with them. I'm either thanking them for sharing my post and asking them if they have any, you know, different places that they prefer or that they recommend. If people are following me, like I'm usually reaching out and saying, you know, thank you for the follow. Like, let me know if there's anything that you need. So I'm doing my best to kind of just like plant the seed that, you know, I am available and I'm open to communication. And it's worked out pretty well so far.
That's great.
Definitely nice.
And you kind of mentioned that there can be a burnout aspect with social media. I do think a lot of people, especially in the real estate business, can like let out a big heavy sigh when social media comes up. And I think what you've done so beautifully is you've found something you would be talking about anyway and made that part of your regular content. And then it is easy for you in that sense.
Yeah, exactly. So when I first started doing social media, it was so daunting. Like it was the last thing I wanted to do. I was like, oh, I have to get up and like brush my hair today and like, you know, put on some makeup and like actually get out and like put my face on camera. And I was just like, I don't even want to talk about these things, or I don't even want to like highlight some of these things. And it just became something that I was like forcing myself to do. But once I was like, you know what, these are the things that I'm doing day in and day out. And people are already asking me about a lot of these things that I'm doing day in and day out. Like people are already like, where are you going to eat? You know, like what's the new place that's opening? You know, you're really familiar with this area. Like what's happening over here? So I was just like, well, I'm already checking those boxes off every day, because the next time a new restaurant opens, I'm either hearing word like from the restaurant now, or I'm hearing word from like someone who's forwarding something to me, like another foodie. And now I'm just like, okay, I have to get on the list and I'm there. So like I should just make that part of my regular, you know, social media content. And now it's got to a place where it's just so nice for me, because like I'm already doing these things. These are already things that I'm doing with friends, family. And now I can just go out and do it. And the food thing has actually opened up like my ability to connect with people as well. Like I have so many like real estate agents or, you know, like even clients who have been like, hey, we actually saw some of your like, you know, your food content. Like we would love to go out and grab dinner with you. Like, you know, once we get to this closing or once we, you know, like before we get to this listing appointment, like instead of like having a traditional listing appointment, like I've been actually able to meet and have like lunch or dinner at like a new spot with someone to connect on, you know, what their motivation is for selling and buying, but also connect in my realm of things, which is like eating usually really good food. So, and I've been able to like really branch out with like connections with real estate agents too, because I have so many real estate agents that I don't even know who have just started to follow me and actually have started to they've started to send me like different places to eat. Like, you know, there's a realtor in Ann Arbor that like I don't normally even, you know, hang out with. I think we were just kind of like Instagram friends, and she was like, there's this new place opening in Ann Arbor, like we have to go. And I was like, cool. So like, you know, we've just kind of created a friendship from there. So it's been nice. It's been nice for connections, and it's been nice and organic just to have, you know, just to have like be able to do like what I'm doing day in and day out and not really have to go, you know, out of my comfort zone for social media, because it can be really daunting and really frustrating. And the ultimate thing is it's become a form of lead gen. So the fact that I have people following me for the food content, or the fact that I have people following me to go through, you know, some of the showings and walkthroughs that I have, you know, that's leading more people to me. And I'm getting, you know, more and more people in my DMs who are saying like, hey, I'm thinking about buying, I'm thinking about selling, and I love your content. So yeah, it's been nice.
Yeah, and you've you've done a lot of different things. I don't know if you're like continuing to do them all. I've seen you do like street interview style videos. You've done kind of more like neighborhood tours in addition to your home walkthroughs, and it's cool to see you doing these different things. Are they experiments? Like, are, you know, some things staying, some things going?
So the street interviews were probably they probably were the most popular, but they were my least favorite because you have no idea how many people do not want to be interviewed, like in public, just walking around. Like there were so many times where you know, like we saw like, you know, in those videos we saw like maybe 5 or 6 people get interviewed, but that was after asking like 50 people, just because like, you know, like I was always very upfront, and I would just say, hey, I'm a real estate agent in the area. You know, I'd love to ask you a few questions about what your favorite places are in the area. And, you know, as soon as people saw the camera behind me, like as soon as they would see the camera behind me, they were like, no. So yeah, it can be a little bit difficult. I do know that like the people who do street interviews are kind of just like spontaneous with it. I think they just kind of come up to people and put them on the spot. And I haven't reached that level of, I guess, I don't know what the word is. I haven't reached that level of just full transparency, I guess, in my world of like, hey, just answer my questions right now. You're going to be on camera. I think I've been more polite about it. So that was also the last summer. So I think I might pick that back up this summer. I know I hit Royal Oak. I might hit Royal Oak again because that's where I live. So I might hit Royal Oak again. I'm definitely probably going to branch into like Birmingham, Berkeley, Clawson, just because, you know, the food scene is kind of like expanding everywhere. And yeah, just kind of see like where everybody's like, you know, favorite spots are. So the interviews are fun. The neighborhood like videos are definitely going to come back too. Those are ridiculously like easy for me. It's just a matter of like remembering to like stick my camera out my car window and like just get a quick pan over of like the neighborhood that I'm in. So yeah, I'll definitely be bringing those back because those were actually really popular on YouTube. I think people really love seeing just some of their own neighborhoods, you know, glamorized on YouTube because like those neighborhoods deserved it too. So yeah, that was, so that might be something that I bring back, but it kind of all falls into that same realm of like, anything that I can do to just show like my day to day in, like when I was doing those neighborhood like videos of like my phone kind of out the window, that was just me showing houses in those neighborhoods. So it was really easy for me to just, you know, point my phone out the window, and just get a quick sweep of, you know, the block that I was going down, and then just talking about it just because, you know, I was so like, I know those neighborhoods so well. So it was just so easy to just be like, hey, fun facts, you know, and people love those facts. So they're fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great, and I think it's great to have like this kind of variety because it shows different aspects of your personality. It shows that you are like anybody else out there on the internet. You know, I think people kind of can get wrapped up in this idea of like an internet persona or like being a certain brand. And I think you showing all these different sides of yourself really comes across as very authentic.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And yeah, it's been a little bit of a ride on social media, just trying to figure out like what I want to do versus like what I really just should be doing instead of like kind of like all the things that I keep hearing, because like you get on social media and you like are trying to really figure out like what works and what sticks. And like I sit down with real estate agents now, like, I had a conversation last week with a realtor who was like, hey, your social media has like really seen, a massive following. Like I want to get behind that and I want to do food, reviews too. And I was like, well, do you do that normally? Is that like a normal part of like your day to day anyway? And they were like, no, not really. And I was like, well, then what do you do? Because that's what we want to focus on, because the last thing you want to do is start to hit up, restaurants, if that's like something that you want to, jump on. And it's not really something that you even do regularly. Like one, it can get pretty expensive. You're going to restaurants 2 to 3 times a week, and the bills for food are not really cheap anymore. So there's that. And then 2, if that's not something that you do day in and day out, like why is that something that you want to burn yourself out with? So like the goal is to always remember, like, what am I doing day in and day out that I can just bring to, like, I can bring a camera to and just, get a quick glimpse of. Like a lot of us are realtors who show homes. So why not show like, hey, come show these 5 houses with me. People love to see what happens in a showing. I have buyers all the time who are like, what do I wear? Like his simple questions, like, am I supposed to get dressed up for showings? Like, what shoes do I need to wear? Like, how many people can I bring? What can I say during a showing? Like, who's going to be at the showing? Like, what happens at a showing? Like, there are so many simple questions, or like what we think would be easy questions, that come to us. But, these are brand new buyers who are just walking through houses. So if you're already showing homes day in and day out, go do a quick tour of what it looks like to show 5 houses, what it looks like to walk through one, so that people can get like kind of that real time look at like what they can expect when they start to go look at houses too. So when someone comes to your social media page, they can be like, okay, cool. So this is what it's going to look like to go show houses with Kat. When I go see 5 houses, like I'll completely understand like what I'm getting into with her, and every agent has a different showing style. So it would be cool to just show like what kind of style you have too. So there's definitely like, different things.
Oh yeah, I think that's great advice. You do a ton of video. And I know you've talked on other platforms about your journey with video and it bringing in sales. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. When I started selling real estate back in 2020, I was working for this tiny little brokerage with me and just a couple other people who worked there. They didn't have any social media presence. They weren't doing any paid marketing, nothing. And I was just a little no one who was just getting started. And I thought, well, social media is free. I can put myself out there through video, and I can try my hand at some amateur editing. And so as uncomfortable as it was, I determined that like putting my face out there and talking into the camera, if I did that daily, I thought, I bet I could get some real estate sales out of that. I bet if I put my eyeballs on camera and set a goal for myself to do it once a day, I could get some sales. And I didn't even have a goal at that time to make a career out of real estate. I was just hoping to, make extra money doing it as a new mom. And it scaled very, very quickly. I mean, with that goal of putting the camera in my face once a day and getting on there and just talking about what I was doing, or the renovations, or the rehab, or a flip we were doing, or going to show a client a property, just getting on there, unbeknownst to me, it built relationships with my community. And so, yeah, I mean, that scaled incredibly quickly. And now, I'm year 4 in real estate, and almost all of my business, in fact, about 98% of my business comes to me through Facebook, through DMs, people messaging me who say, oh my gosh, I saw a video of you, or my aunt's cousin's cat referred you, but they come to me through the social media platform.
That's amazing. And like you said, like free, all it cost you was your time.
Right.
So, what would you say to people who are like, because I think a lot of agents are like, ugh, I know I should be doing social. Ugh, I know I should be doing video. I think you mentioned, there was maybe some discomfort in starting and putting yourself out there. Like, how did you push through that discomfort?
Well, it was 2020 and COVID happened. And so when that happened, I had just gotten my real estate license, but simultaneously COVID happened and I lost my job. So I got laid off because of COVID layoffs. And so I needed to make money. So, it was like, well, if I want to pay bills, I really need to try. And this is the only thing I can think of, not having any startup money. It's the only thing I can think of to try to get business. And so, pushing that need to make some money forced me to push my limits and comfort and put that camera in front of my face. So it was more necessity than anything.
Right. And then it sounds like it just kind of grew organically. Like, do you feel like when you engaged more with people commenting on your videos that things went further? Like, what did you find there?
It does. Not only does it push, your videos out, you just, with the algorithm and everything, the more you comment on someone comments on yours and you comment back, so it pushes it. But also, I mean, that it builds relationships with people. And what I have found is that, when you put your eyeballs in front of the camera, like we have the same experience when we follow someone on Instagram. I follow a lot of investors on Instagram. A lot of realtors follow other realtors on Instagram. When we see those people with their eyeballs, it goes past our conscious mind and into our subconscious so that we feel like we have a relationship with them, even when we don't. They don't know who we are, but we feel like we trust them. We feel like we trust their financial advice or their business advice, and we take it. It goes the same way when you are speaking to your community. They feel like they know you and they trust you, and so it is so much beyond further than the algorithm. It's about relationship building. So when they reach out to you and they say, "Okay, can you sell my mom's house? She just passed away," or "Can you help me think through this situation," they're trusting you with their lives and with their money. And so I found it to be an honor and just super, super helpful.
And when you're creating your videos, like, do you batch content? Do you how do you plan it?
Yeah. So when I was first getting started, I started using, there are so many content calendars that you can find. You could Google real estate content calendar. You can get one on Canva. They have really great ones on Instagram and Pinterest. So you're not going to find a shortage of content ideas. So I used a content calendar when I was getting started. I don't anymore, just because I'm more comfortable, putting the camera in my face and, creating content daily. I do try to sit down once a week and I will batch content because I know there are topics I want my community to hear about, or I'm doing a market update or something, and I want to make sure that I get all of that, or I'm not in my mom clothes. I'm in my mom clothes a lot, and so I've got barf here and snot here, and sometimes I got to just batch the content and get in a suit coat. But I do that about once a week, and then the rest of the time, at the beginning of my day, I'll sit down with a notebook. I'll write out what I'm going to be doing that day, the client appointments I have, the concerns my clients have been bringing to me, what I'm hearing in the market. And then my goal is 3 to 5 videos a day, either video or some sort of content that I am creating and putting out. And I'll make sure I capture that during the day.
Wow. For some people, that might sound like a lot. Is it all things that are living on your feed? Do you do stories as well?
I try to do a reel, a story, and a post at least once a day. If I hit each of those once a day, I feel like I've hit my goal. Yeah, and sometimes I'll do more than that, if a property's going live or something exciting's happening, that just adds to it. And I know, 3 to 5 videos a day or a post a day, it is ambitious. And that's definitely not where I started. I felt like it was an accomplishment if I did like one a day or one every other day. So if you can just, wherever you're at in that usage of social media for, getting yourself out there and building relationships with your community, start there and don't be ashamed of it, because you have to start somewhere. Otherwise, you're just not going to build those relationships. You can't be in front of people 24 hours a day, except with social media. That is, the for me, social media has been the hinge that swings the door on my business, and it's allowed me to make tons of friends and business contacts and a whole lot of money. Yeah, it's been amazing.
Your social media, it isn't all real estate though. I think, you showed like you were making soup one day or things like that. It's not 100% business with you.
It's not. And I think you can build business using social media anyway. I don't think that there is one recipe that, is going to make or break it for you. I try to do things that are just me. And I want to create content that, my tribe or my, audience would relate to. Who is my client avatar? Who are the people I want to be helping in my community? And people I relate with are moms in their 30s, 40s, people who are aspiring real estate investors, other people in our community who want to build it and make it better. So I think if I share content that those type of people will relate to, then that will help me build more business and relationships. So it doesn't have to be all business. And I think that it just helps you to connect with people more when they don't feel like you're selling to them all the time, trying to get business from them all the time. They need to see you as a real person, and that you want to build something with them and not just sell to them.
For sure. It's authenticity, right? Which I think is both like trending and real. Like we need it online.
Right? Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I think you can use social media to build however you want to and have success in it if you're determined to. I know a lot of real estate agents and, like branding companies have come to me and they're like, you need to clean up your videos a little or look a little bit more curated on your posts and things like that. And I think that can work for people. It's just not me. I don't care to curate my videos more or make things, be super branded all the time. It's just not who I am. I would rather just be able to make my videos as I go and take my community along with me throughout the day on my adventures as a mom and a wife and a realtor and an investor, building our community. I'd rather do it that way.
And I think people respond more to that, especially like the things that you see that go popular or viral, like on TikTok and trends like that, especially like even in the world of like TikTok sketch comedy, it's all very basic. And so I think people have gotten more accustomed to that. Even, in your video, like if you're making a reel and it clips. I remember when people first started doing that, it drove me nuts. Now, if I see someone give like one perfect take of something, I'm like, what's wrong with this video? Something's weird.
It's true. It's so true. Again, I think you could make whatever you want to work, but for me, it's got to be more real.
Yeah. And I think that lowers the barrier to entry for a lot of people. It doesn't have to be this highly produced thing. If you're like one of the agents on Selling Sunset, that's like a different story.
Right.
You have a different brand. But I think in building that authenticity and being in people's sphere, they just want to be around someone relatable.
Absolutely.
Now, you post a lot. I mean, you have your Facebook and your Instagram, but it seems like from a lot of agents that I've talked to, like Facebook is the bread and butter. Do you have any like thoughts on that?
Yes, Facebook is my bread and butter. I think that it probably just depends on your audience. People who are transacting right now are my age and above. They're not the 17-year-old on TikTok. I am going to have to start creating more content on TikTok eventually, right, to be able to connect with that younger audience. So it's on my mind. It's just right now, I mean, the people who I'm transacting with, they are on Facebook. That's where we live. And so, yeah, that has been super successful for me as opposed to Instagram.
Totally. Yeah, I was thinking about this when I was thinking about our interview this morning, and we were probably, growing up and stuff. If you needed to know how to do something, you go on YouTube. Like I needed to figure out how to replace the headlight in my car. I go to YouTube, and nowadays people look for how-tos on TikToks, and I'm just like, different times.
It is a totally different time.
And I think you're right. I think as maybe generations age, like the technology will have to shift too. That's just my guess, as much as I can predict the future. So in talking about your video before, and we've kind of touched on this, but I loved in a previous interview, you said it doesn't have to be perfect to be profitable. And that was kind of your whole like slogan for your first year of video. You still living by those words?
Yes, more than ever. The busier things get and the wilder things get with life, with, raising your kids and, growing your family. And, I just have to tell myself that all the time. It really doesn't have to be perfect to be profitable in anything that you're doing. I've, really kind of expanded that motto to like every area of my life. Like, even in relationships, my relationship with my husband doesn't have to be perfect to be profitable. My relationship with my pastors doesn't have to be perfect to be profitable. I can still give and receive and have those relationships be beautiful and meaningful and produce wonderful things in my life, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And my house doesn't have to look perfect, and my dishes don't have to be done all the time. And, perfection is, it's just an illusion. And so, yeah, saying that to myself daily, it doesn't have to be perfect to be profitable, allows me to be focused and to run hard at my goals. And I think to love hard also.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Thank you for listening to the Closing Table podcast, brought to you by WindowStill. I'm Kat Schooler. Please make sure you are following our podcast on Apple or Spotify. And if you're part of our YouTube audience, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're enjoying this podcast, please be sure to leave a comment or review. It helps us find more amazing listeners like you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.